What began in June 2024 as a space to amplify autistic and neurodivergent voices has grown into something far bigger. A platform for raw, honest conversations about neurodivergence, disability, burnout, inclusion, mental health, and how our identities shape the way we move through the world. From the start, our mission has been clear: to go beyond the headlines, beyond stereotypes, and explore the real lived experiences that often go unheard. Over the past year, we've spoken with parents, professionals, educators, advocates, and everyday people, all united by a commitment to building a more inclusive and accessible world. But what's mattered most is the community. Those of you who listen, share, and remind us, finally, someone gets it. Thank you for being here. This is just the beginning.
Looking for authentic conversations that go beneath the surface? Tune in now to the Deep Dive podcast. Visit us at www.deepdiveau.net. That's deepdiveau.net. And follow us across your favorite platforms: YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Facebook. Just search at the Deep Dive AU. Join us as we dive deep into stories of neurodivergence, lived experience, and creating a more inclusive world. The Deep Dive podcast. Conversations that matter. Stories that connect.
This is the Deep Dive podcast. And here is your host, Michael Coles.
Jessica Otter is a passionate autism parent advocate, creator of the social media brand Aussie Autism Family, and mum to 2 autistic children. She offers an authentic, heartfelt view into life with autism. Through her social media platforms, Jess candidly shares her experiences navigating parenting with content that blends informative insights with a touch of humour, focusing on sensory parenting, communication strategies, and community building with her podcast, Divergent Discussions. Jessica Otter, welcome to the Deep Dive.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I've been having a look, and when you asked me to be a guest on your podcast, I was like, that's so cool. I feel like I'm not that special, but hopefully
That's fair enough. But I think sort of you've got a lot of followers on your social media. So what motivated you to start sharing your family's journey on social media through Aussie Autism Family?
So that goes back to when Jacob was first diagnosed. He was like 2.5. And I felt very isolated. We had just moved away from family. We've moved 2 hours away from all of everyone we knew. So I was quite, lonely and isolated and confused, and, all the feelings that you feel when you first receive your child's diagnosis. And I just felt so overwhelmed that I'm like, there has to be a community out there. There has to be people that we can connect to. And there wasn't really. There was, you go online and there was a lot of Americans, a lot of people in other countries doing things, and not so much in Australia. So it was definitely something that I wanted to start up. And I just started posting first I started posting on YouTube, and then I started posting on Instagram. And slowly, I found the community that I had been yearning for. And it was just, blossomed from there.
Okay, so how's your own autism diagnosis influence your parenting approach?
So I was only diagnosed last year. So I guess we did about 4 or 5 years without knowing that I was autistic. And it definitely opened up my eyes to a lot of things. I don't actually think that the diagnosis itself changed the way that I parented, because I kind of always have known I might be neurodivergent, and I sort of parented from that perspective. I knew a lot of the things that Jacob was experiencing I could relate to. Some things I couldn't relate to. So, we're all very different. And so I think just getting my diagnosis, I feel like it's just sort of empowered me to advocate for him more. I think, not that I wasn't advocating for him beforehand, it just has sort of given me this, I guess it's not important to have that label, but it's nice to be like, I'm autistic and so is my son, and this is what we need. It's been nice to sort of connect that together. Sometimes it's separate, but yeah, no, I think it sort of empowered me in that way to give me, yeah, I guess
Okay.
empowerment.
Okay, so what are some common misconceptions about autism you've encountered and how do you address them?
Misconceptions. Oh, there's a lot of them. I think the biggest one we've encountered is that non-speaking means that they can't hear or understand you. Jacob is mostly non-speaking, and over the years, I've just witnessed a lot of people just sort of diminishing his, what's the word? Competence. That's the word. So a lot of people will address me and talk to me about Jacob in front of him, or they will, ask me questions that should definitely just be directed to him. I think, and there's been therapists that have said things in front of Jacob that I really wish that they wouldn't have. I think they just assume that they can talk to you about anything in front of your child. And when you're talking about challenges and things, that can be really hard. I'm like, that he's listening to you right now. So usually I try and redirect it to Jacob. And, he has shown his competence over the years, and people still have that misconception about him. And I think the other misconception that I've come across a lot is just the understanding of what autism is, what neurodivergence is. And like, I think a lot of people just either think, they're going to be, on very different ends of the spectrum, and they're the only two types of autism there are. Like, there's Rain Man, and there's, the other side of the spectrum where they're non-speaking. I think that the misconception is that, we're all so different and no two autistic people are alike. And I think that is the biggest thing, whether people like to admit it or not. People have that underlying internal ableism there. And, I think that people should look at people just as individuals rather than, oh, this child is autistic, so, they must like swinging, I think it's so different for each child. Some children don't like swinging. So I think that's a huge misconception. And also, my diagnosis, I think a lot of people think, she shouldn't be diagnosed autistic. I've had a lot of people say, you're not autistic, things like that. And I think when you truly get to understand what autism is, then that's when you truly know that it's just it's a different brain type, and it can present so differently for each person. So yeah, I think, there's a lot of misconceptions.
Exactly. So, can you describe a particularly challenging day and how did you manage it?
I think a lot of parents can agree that there's a lot of challenging days. To single one out is really tough for me. I experience a lot of memory fog and, just like kind of forgetting things. But I think the hardest days are the days when I'm dysregulated and my children are dysregulated. I think that's the hardest thing that a lot of parents can, I guess, relate to. If you do have your own, you're neurodivergent as well, and you're having a really hard day, say you can feel that meltdown looming, you can feel this dysregulation coming on, and then you have your child who's also going through those emotions, and you are the parent, you are the adult, you're supposed to be the one to help them. I think that that's really, really hard to navigate, and it's something that I don't think I've even perfected or even gotten anywhere close to getting right. I think the biggest thing that I've noticed is just if I do snap, if I do get dysregulated, I think just telling my kids what's going on with me. I think a lot of kids would come to the conclusion that, mum's mad at me because, because I'm being loud or whatever it is. But I think just me naming my emotions and telling them, my brain is overwhelmed at the moment. That's why I'm struggling. And that's been a big thing for my family, is just sort of, talking about things when we're calm afterwards. Usually we can't talk about it in the moment, but and using the proper accommodation. So I usually will put headphones on if things are getting too loud. And I used to think that made me a bad parent. Now I know it makes me a better parent. And if you need those accommodations, I think that you should use them, if it's going to make your lives easier.
Okay, so what strategies have you found effective in advocating for your children's needs within educational and medical systems which could be ableist?
Yeah, so when I thought about this question, to be honest, I don't feel like I am an amazing advocate in those systems, because the systems are not they are ableist, as you said. They're set up for, neurotypical people. They're not set up for us. And just whenever I have to bring my child into a medical situation, it ends up most of the time in meltdowns on both of our parts. And it's super overwhelming. Recently we had to go to the hospital, and I just felt like no one was really, I shouldn't say no one, everyone was trying their best to support us. However, I just feel like there should be systems in place to help us better. I think that the environment of a hospital is not accommodating at all. I think we had multiple newborns around us, which for the newborns, we weren't, we were loud as well. So we were triggering them to wake up, and then the newborn crying was triggering us through our sound aversion. With school, that's been a really difficult one, because we've navigated a few different types of schooling. And I found that whilst teachers are amazing and try their very best, most of the time, I know that there are exceptions. And there's experiences people have had with teachers that aren't good. But I think majority of the time they have good intentions. They just don't have the support to sort of back it up. They don't have the funding. They don't have the resources. But I think that a lot of teachers are receptive to conversations. And I think it's through those conversations, that's how they're going to learn. I actually advocate for everyone to go, whoever's a teacher, to go and watch the Yellow Ladybugs conference, because there was a lot to do with, supporting autistic and neurodivergent people in the school. And I think that so many people could learn so many things, and the things that they spoke about were very small adjustments and very cheap adjustments that they could make in their classroom to help neurodivergent kids. So I would definitely recommend watching that conference, because it was truly amazing.
Yeah. And Yellow Ladybug says, I think it's amazing. I've attended, basically I haven't attended live in person, but I've attended the virtual ones for 2 years already. I so want to go to Melbourne and stuff like that to actually sort of experience a fair day. It is incredible. So, and I'm looking forward to doing it one day. So how do you support your children's communication, especially considering Jacob is not non-speaking?
Mm-hmm. So communication. Over the years, that has changed. I think as I grew through my own acceptance of autism and the neurodivergent world, that did change. So when Jacob was little, we did try to use an AAC device with him. However, I think it wasn't implemented in the right way, and that's, made him very resistant to it. So he did a lot of body language and pulling my hand towards things. And that was, his chosen communication, which was totally fine. We were going to go with whatever he chose. But then, it got to the point where there were limits. And this happens with both of my kids. There were limits to what they could say to me in different headspaces. If they're really dysregulated, they weren't able to convey very much. So we did use visuals for a little bit. However, my kids like to rip those down the halls. So it wasn't too practical. We accessed the Hanan More Than Words program with Adina from Play Learn Chat. She is incredible. If you haven't checked her out, you have to check her out. Sorry, plug for her, because she had transformed my knowledge of she transformed my knowledge of neuroaffirming practice. So how it really should be navigated with, therapies and communication. I truly learned that the previous strategies that we had been using with Jacob were not affirming, and they were, making him resistant. So when I did that course with Adina, it was a parent course. That's when I started implementing those strategies, Jacob started saying a few words, and he started to convey words in different ways rather than speaking. And we were elated. Like this, it truly works. That's why I'll be forever grateful to Adina, because she had supported us to do that. And so now Jacob is saying a few more words. He gets his point across. I can understand him in a non-speaking capacity just because I know his mannerisms. But for other people, he's starting to try and use his AAC device again. And yeah, I think it's just a journey of whatever communication he needs in that communication method he needs in that moment. I think that will change over time.
Okay, so what role does a sensory play have in your family's daily routine?
It has everything. Our kids have access to a lot of sensory equipment in our house. We have access to the equipment too. I'm definitely going on our indoor swing that we have set up in our living room. We have a very non-conventional house. Is it non-conventional? Unconventional house. We removed our couch out of our living room and we have a swing in there. Jacob has a swing in his bedroom. We have sensory toys everywhere. We have a hammock in Jazz's room. We've got lots of things, and our kids are constantly using them. I found that having access to more things allowed them to have, a happier day. Just like, we have headphones hung up on the walls, so it's easy to access them. My kids, I think myself too, we all do struggle to know when we're getting dysregulated. And so having them easily accessible, we're like, oh yeah, I can use those. It's getting a bit loud in here. I might put them on and I will be a lot happier. So I think just having those in sight, a lot of people pack them away. And I think that it can help work for some people, but I think for a lot of people, it needs to be in sight for them. And yeah, we do a lot of beach regulation. Like majority of our activities that we do outside of the house have to do with water. That's our biggest regulation tool in our family. So yeah, it's fun.
Okay, so how do you handle public reactions or comments when your children's behaviours don't align with societal expectations?
I don't deal well with them. And it has actually over the years, it did force us out of the community for a little bit, because those confrontations or those comments and stares and things, I personally don't do well with confrontation. I wish I could. I wish I could be that advocate in that, space. But usually if something had happened, it's like my husband will speak up a little bit more than I will. But usually it's like, let's just get out of here. Let's go home to our safe place. So over the years, Jacob has had periods where, he wears different types of clothes. He will wear, very minimal clothes. And, obviously we know it's like not socially appropriate to not wear clothes in the community. So we never did that. But, sometimes it just meant that he would just wear shorts. And, the amount of comments that we've gotten from people, isn't he cold? Where's his shirt? Where's his shoes? He's going to hurt his feet. When they really don't understand the extent of a sensory aversion to him, like it was absolutely, like he was, distraught every time he wore clothes, or distraught every time he wore shoes. And I thought to myself one day, I was like, why are we doing this? Why are we forcing these like neuronormative things on him? Because just because of what people are going to say in society, like, no. And also, like, him wearing no shoes is going to hurt him way less than wearing shoes. Like, it's a lot of people liken it to pain, and that can be obviously a lot more hurtful than just not wearing shoes out in the community. And I don't even like to wear shoes all the time.
So what resources or tools have been most beneficial for your family's journey?
As I mentioned before, the Hannah More Than Words program is so good. I would thoroughly recommend anyone who has a child who is struggling with their communication to access that course. And we did that through Play Learn Chat. What other tools? We have really used lots of like registries, like the Living on the Spectrum registry directory, I think it's called, and the Amaze Connect as well. They are very good. You can call them up and ask them lots of questions about autism or anything in that autism space. I have personally, just because I prefer researching myself, I prefer going online and just doing a whole bunch of research on different things. So I think that's been very good. You just have to be very careful of where you're getting that information from. I prefer to get that information from people who are autistic or who are neurodivergent. I think in some very limited cases it would be okay, but I don't think getting information from neurotypical people is helpful at all. Just because how can they know the true experience of, daily life of what we're going through? And how can they make a resource on that? I think you kind of have to be neurodivergent to be able to teach on that and support others with that. So I think when you're looking for places to research or look for information, I would just definitely go to, Autistic Voices. That's what I've always gone to in the last 4 or 5 years. And yeah, very valuable information there.
Okay, so how do you foster a sense of community among other autism families through your platform?
I think people just really appreciate being heard and feeling like they are not alone in this journey. I think a lot of us are bound to our homes for various reasons, and getting out into the community can be really hard, let alone connecting with others in the community. I mean, that's really hard. So I guess we kind of turn to the online space. It's easier, simpler for us to go onto our phones and connect with people rather than in real life. And obviously real life is, it's good too. But I also think that just having that connection in, on our phones or on our computers can be so beneficial. And so I think when I started posting about things, I think people would message me and I would create group chats and things. And now we've got the CID Foundation group chat, which has been thriving. Like there's lots of different chats and people asking lots of different questions, and just we always get the comments that I think someone said it's like a village in my pocket. Like, you know, we kind of lose that village in real life, but, you know, having that village in my pocket, I can always ask a question or get some support in that way from others who truly understand it. And I think, I think just online, it's been great to connect with so many people. I feel bad that I can't always respond to everyone. So that's why I guess the CID Foundation is so good, because I'm a part of that community too. And there's so many amazing people in those groups that, you know, can be that village for everyone, you know? It's great.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on the current state of autism awareness versus acceptance in society?
I think this is a really tricky question. I used to think, you know, when it was Autism Awareness Month, people used to always say, you know, we don't need awareness anymore. People know about autism, but I think we need understanding, or we need acceptance more than that. But I actually truly do believe that a lot of people don't have that awareness yet. They don't understand it. They don't know what autism is. You know, I think they have misconceptions, and I think that this space has grown into the online space is huge, and you can access so many different people and their experiences and understand it from those people. I, however, do think that there's a lot of organizations and brands that will tap the autism awareness badge on to their posts or whatever and just say, oh, you know, we're celebrating Autism Awareness Day or month, and won't actually do anything or learn anything. They'll just say we're celebrating it. And I'm like, well, I think that you shouldn't celebrate it. I think you should learn about it. I think you should actively sit down on that day and do a training or do something where you are broadening your knowledge about the world, because, you know, we can all say we're celebrating it. You're not actually celebrating it if you are just doing it for show. And I really hate saying that, but I do see it a lot. And yeah, I think that's pretty much my view on it. I think it's great. I think it's a step, but I don't think it's the step that needs to be taken.
Okay, so what advice would you give to other parents who are navigating their own or their children's autism diagnosis?
Oh, there's so much I could say. The first thing that I would say, if you are just at that start of receiving that diagnosis, I would just say slow down, because I think a lot of us are given that diagnosis report and there's a lot of recommendations on there. You got to access NDIS, you got to do all these things, and you kind of race into this like mode of let's do all the things. It can get really overwhelming very, very quickly. And that's when a lot of, you know, parents are noticing their own neurodivergence, and that's when, you know, overwhelm comes into it and burnout comes into it. And we really do need to take care of ourselves as parents to be able to take care of our kids. So if that, you know, process of accessing speech therapy or occupational therapy, if that process takes a little time, that's okay. There's no race against time. The other thing that I would say is just listen to autistic people. I think, and I also think just connecting with others can be super beneficial as well. It can help to have people that are affirming in your life that you can talk to about these types of things that, people in your life may not know about or may not really understand to that level. And what else would I say? The other thing I would say is just be their parent, because it's very easy for you to get into a role of advocate or therapist, or we need to do all the things, but truly your role as a parent is to be a parent and to enjoy them. I think it's very easy to fall into the other roles, but parent first is what I would say.
Okay, so in the final question, looking ahead, what are your hopes for the future in terms of autism acceptance and inclusion?
So much. I think the number one thing is that I want to see autistic and neurodivergent people in positions of power. I want to see them making the policies that guide us. I want to see them, leading the way with the NDIS. I don't think it's helpful that they don't have a wide range of people who are neurodivergent in those roles. They might have one token, autistic person, but it's really just not enough. And having people who have lived the experience in those roles can really change things for us in this society. So that's one thing I would say.
And on that note, Jessica Otter, thank you so much for being part of the Deep Dive podcast today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. And you had such great questions too, I think. It's great awareness and acceptance for our community.
All right. Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you.
For more information, go to Jessica's Instagram at Aussie Autism Family